Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hello friends, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio, here in the Bible Bistro. Come on in here and sit down with me, get your Bible out, open it up. We're going to look at Psalm 114 today. Psalm 114 I'm going to entitle this psalm, The Presence of God. We're going to look at this all week this week. It's 8 verses long. No introduction. Just like last week, we just have another orphanic psalm here. Psalm 114, The Presence of God. This is another very simple, straight to the point psalm. It's like 113. It's catechetical in a sense because it's teaching a very specific, very simple idea. And that is the presence of God amongst His people and how it affects everything. So we're going to talk about that this week as we just make our way through this very short, very simple little psalm, which, as I said, is very catechetical in its teaching. It doesn't really have question and answer. It does, but it's later on in the psalm. It's not for the reader. It's for another group, but it's one of those questions that you get to listen into and answer yourself, but it really answers the question throughout the entirety of the psalm. So it's just lovely. It's brilliant, really, in the way it's structured. So we'll begin with verses 1 and 2 today. Let me read those for us. Psalm 114, verses 1 and 2. When Israel went out of Egypt, the house of Jacob from a people of a strange language, Judah was his sanctuary, and Israel his dominion. Isn't that lovely? So right away we understand the setting, don't we? We're talking about the Exodus story, when Israel went out of Egypt. The terminology here harkens back to the Exodus story, even the verbiage, went out of. So we know that that's the verbiage that was used in the Exodus story. Israel went out of Egypt. And how did they go out? Well, they went out by the Lord's mighty hand. So He brought them out. The house of Jacob from a people of a strange language. So notice the identifications here. We have Israel there in verse 1 and house of Jacob in verse 1b. So 1a has Israel, house of Jacob is 1b. So we know in the Exodus story, that's who's there. In Exodus chapter 1, we have a listing of the tribes and the men who are the fathers of those tribes and the heads of the households in those tribes. And then at the end of the story in Exodus, Israel has grown to an amazing number of persons. And so it's not families anymore, it's tribes that are talked about. So when they went down, there's just 70. When they come out, there's hundreds of thousands of people. So we have this huge increase in population, but it's still Israel and the house of Jacob. Even though there's so many, but still that's how it's identified. And it says, out of Egypt, well, we know where that is, we know when that is, from a people of a strange language. So the strange language there is not the language of the people of Israel, but it was the language of their captors. And of course, strange language can also mean those things that are strange, spiritually strange, because these were idolaters. And so what they were talking about wasn't the things that, would feed the soul of a human. The soul of a hungry man is not going to be fed by the strange language of the Egyptians. And then it says Judah was his sanctuary. That word sanctuary means his holy place. We understand it to mean the place of worship too. There's going to be a sanctuary, a physical tent where they worship, but in the meantime, it's just God's presence with His people. They became His holy place. Israel, His dominion. Interesting word. It's plural, so it means realm. It means all the places in which God rules. And all the places in which God rules were all those tribes. He's with all of them. His presence is spread out amongst each of them. All right, so tomorrow we're going to pick up right there and read verses 3 and 4. And we'll do that here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.